The woman who was afraid of death. Once upon a time there was a woman so afraid of death that when she was young and fair with skin as white as snow and hair as bright as fire, she chose to lock all her doors, to close all her windows and take down all her clocks, too. The woman who was afraid of death feared death's embrace more than anything else because she feared death would turn up on her doorstep with scythe in hand to chop her into little bits. The thought of such a bloody death made her anxious, so she retreated to the safety of her cottage. If I block all the entrances and stay in my humble cottage, death can't get in, and time cannot bother me with the misery of old age, she said, smiling to herself for her cautious approach to life. At first, blocking all the entrances to her cottage eased her mind. She felt justified in her caution, but her peace of mind did not last long. As the days and nights passed, and the months turned into years, she looked out her window and saw her friends and family age before her eyes and then on occasion drop down dead before her eyes or pass her window one last time in a casket driven by a hearse on the way to the local graveyard. To her it seemed that death and time were cutting down the ones she loved like trees in a forest. "It's so sad to see them die," the woman said to her chair. "But at least I'm safe in here," she added to the sofa. Both objects did not respond because there was no magic in this cottage that enchanted them and gave them the gift of speech. Being by herself for so long had left the woman hungry for conversation. So, when the sofa and chair did not talk to her, she would kick them on their legs and sometimes even swear at them with such words you would never hear in a children's book. From her frequent outbursts of rage, the poor chair and sofa had ended up with dents in their legs from her anger and scratches on their arms from where she tore into them. "There," she said, kicking the sofa again. "And that's what you get for such rudeness," she said, booting the chair yet again on one bitter winter night when she had fallen out with them once more and stormed off to sit in the corner and stare at the wall, which she did until her bum got so numb from sitting on the floor that she decided to apologize to the sofa and chair by sitting on the chair and later falling asleep on the sofa. Later, without an inch of remorse for her unkindness, the old woman said, "Well, I'm doing you both a favor. Sitting on your chair and lying on your sofa is what you're designed for." This was the woman's life for years on end. She lived in a world of her own punctuated by the occasional rant at the inanimate objects in her house. The years were long and unkind to the woman who was afraid of death because her beauty faded and old age crept up on her just as it had to all those she loved. Her hair turned as white as snow rather than remain as bright as fire like in her youth. As she aged, her paranoia about death's power to sneak up on her grew like a cancer in her mind, so much so that she stopped eating just in case the food she ate was somehow poisoned by death. Naturally, such extremes of behavior took its toll on the woman who was afraid of death. One day she woke from her sleep to find she unable to move due to malnutrition. The woman who was afraid of death still smiled, though, for she was certain that she was right to be so cautious. The fact that she was still alive while all those she loved had died proved her right, or so she thought. On the day the woman who was afraid of death was at her weakest from old age and malnutrition, a young boy with blonde hair and blue eyes appeared at her door. The woman saw the boy and feared death would get him. So she found the strength in her aging bones to get up off her sofa, unblock the front door entrance and let the young boy in. "You'll have to forgive me, child," the woman said. "I have lived alone for many years and my strength is not what it was, so I cannot treat guests as custom dictates. I let you in because death stalks the land outside, and I couldn't bear the thought that it would claim one as young as you. Please make yourself at home." "That's okay," the young boy said, smiling at her. He held the woman's hand and guided her back to the sofa. "You are not alone anymore," he said, bending down and smiling as he kissed her softly on the cheek. "Who are you, child?" the woman asked as she started to nod off. "Why, I am Death, of course," he said, sounding puzzled, as if not understanding that she did not know who he was. The old woman, on hearing the child call himself Death, bolted up on the sofa even though her strength was ebbing from her like the tides from the shore. "Why have you come to me now, and why in the guise of a child?" Death smiled kindly at the woman as he took her hand and kissed her on the cheek again. "I come to everyone in time. Most are glad to see me, for they have lived full lives and want me to ease them from the pain and suffering that comes with old age. But I did everything to keep you at bay, to stop you coming for me. How did you find me?" "I find everyone," Death said, staring into the old woman's eyes with such pity and sadness that she started to cry. "But I don't want to die." "I haven't." Death nodded. "You haven't lived, have you?" "No," she said, not able to look Death in the eyes. "I haven't lived. But I still have time," she said with a pleading look. "No," Death said with a sigh. "But I know that your life has been one full of worry and anxiety, so I can free you from that now. You can, yes. Can you tell me why you have come to me as a child?" she asked, drifting off into a sleep from which she would never wake. "I come to you as a child to tell you that the meaning of life is to be most fully yourself, to achieve the seriousness of a child at play. With that, the woman took her last breath. As Death looked down at the woman who feared him most of all, he saw her lifeless face lit up with a peaceful smile, which warmed his heart because now he knew that though many fear him, everyone would welcome him in time and be glad he visited them.